All right, now look at a massive investment that's going to reshape the heart of downtown, the expansion of the GRB, the George R. Brown Convention Center. It's going to be backed by the hotel occupancy tax revenue because it's going to cost billions of dollars. Promises to boost tourism and development, as these projects always do. But who really benefits from the growth and who's being left out? That's what we're going to talk about. So joining us to break it down is Professor Heywood Sanders. He's a nationally recognized expert on public infrastructure, tourism economics, and urban equity. He teaches at the University of Texas, San Antonio, public administration. And there's this new short documentary. It's about a 20-minute doc in black and white called The Magic Hole. And it's all about how what's happening in Austin with their convention center may just be a money pit. It's a really interesting film. Professor Sanders, welcome to Hello Houston.
Nice to join you.
I'm glad you're here.
And we want to invite you to the conversation. If you have a question for Professor Sanders, you can give us a call at 713-440-8870. Okay, Professor Sanders, before we jump into the GRB, I know we were just talking about that. I want our listeners to hear something that you were just telling Frank and myself right before we got into this conversation, that every major city in Texas is redoing their convention center.
Well, we can start down the list alphabetically.
Okay.
With Austin.
Yeah.
And they are demolishing their existing convention center, digging a great big hole in the ground. That's where the name of the video, The Magic Hole, comes from. And their plan is to double the size of their convention venue at a cost they now estimate, with a wink, at $1.6 billion.
That's not going to happen.
Okay.
It's going to be twice that.
We'll talk about that. So that's Austin.
Yeah.
Now, I guess we would go to Dallas.
Uh-huh.
And what they're doing in Dallas to the Kay Bailey Hutchison Convention Center is basically demolishing a large chunk, about 2/3 of what's already there, reorienting it spatially, building a whole new part and expanding their exhibit space, ballrooms, meeting rooms, the whole thing, with the argument that they want to better connect that to South Dallas and downtown and spur new development and create an entertainment district and get new hotels.
This is sounding kind of familiar.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
How much is their project?
They're a bit over $3 billion now, but it's going to be
go more.
growing.
Okay.
Now, then we get to Fort Worth.
Oh, they want a convention center too.
Well, they have a convention center, and they haven't been happy with that convention center, and they commissioned a consulting firm to tell them what they should do. With one study in 2014 and another in 2019. Now, note what's happened to the world since 2019, but we can talk about that later. And in any case, they demolished their old arena, the Flying Saucer, as it was lovingly known, and they're going to expand their convention center. They also say they need a brand new 1,000-room hotel next door.
Sure.
Okay.
Because as folks in Houston might recall,
Right.
that was the story here actually twice over with the Hilton Americas and then the Marriott. The Hilton built and paid for by the city, the Marriott deeply subsidized for a private developer. So they're going to, having demolished the Saucer, they're expanding their convention center too and adding a hotel. And then I guess we get to San Antonio.
Well, C-D-E-F.
Well, we'll talk about Houston last.
I was going to say, no, H.
Okay,
Let's go to
quickly on
Houston.
San Antonio.
Houston.
We only have about 10 minutes.
Yeah,
So I don't want to
well,
spend too much time on all these other
Houston
cities.
First has come out with an announcement that they will be starting a convention district transformation project.
Which looks beautiful.
Well, let me just read. I want to share this. Okay. A transformational master plan to reconnect the city's East End with downtown, creating a vibrant, walkable convention and entertainment district unlike any place in the nation.
Well, yeah, it sort of takes that space off from where the Rustic is, the Rustic restaurant.
Yes.
So it looks like that space connects off to the Toyota Center.
Well, that's right.
So-
They're going to move south towards Toyota. They're going to close Polk Street,
Which they
across-
closed Lamar. Lamar
Right.
Street is what is now all those oak trees.
Oak trees. Right.
Right.
So, Professor Sanders, the Houston First officials had their town hall back in July last month, and a lot of the residents, a lot of the East End residents that were there, said that their format was limiting their ability to ask very tough questions and questions directly to the Houston First officials. Is that common during these types of changes when you have a group like this working? Like, are our problems the same as the rest?
They're not. Let's put it this way. Every place has its own distinctive character and distinctive political process. Part of the dynamic that we see broadly is that the public officials, the folks who run the convention center, and in some cases it's a public authority. In Texas, it tends to be the city.
Yep.
Although in Houston's case, of course, the city has kind of spun off the center, the hotel, the theaters, et cetera, to this
Houston First.
semi-independent public corporation.
Houston First.
Right, Houston First. But it's still a public body, and it's still supported by tax dollars. They may be hotel tax dollars primarily, also parking revenues.
Supposedly.
Yeah. But it's still a public entity. Now, part of the problem is really information and accountability. So when we talk about these things, and particularly in the Houston case, we want to know, what are you trying to do? I can't argue. I mean, I've been in downtown Houston. The idea of a viable, walkable district.
Better
Thank you.
underneath.
Okay.
We have some great tunnels down there.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it sounds great.
Yeah.
But if the intention is to get more convention business, and that is in fact the promise, then whoa.
Well, they say that this will be finished just in time for the Republican convention in 2028. I didn't know that Houston had been named as the place where they're going to have the Republican National Convention. Are they just hoping to get that?
Well, that's a one.
That's just a one.
That's a one-time thing.
Well, true.
It's
And I
a
don't know that
one-time thing, and the one thing is if they're here, 4 years from now they'll be somewhere else.
Well, right.
Maybe Milwaukee, but in any case,
Right.
Getting one big event doesn't justify spending $1 billion or $2 billion in public dollars, whether they come from hotel taxes or car rental taxes or anywhere else, in my judgment. What you want to do is say and ask the question, what are you trying to get when you say you're going to attract some of the leading meetings and events in the industry as the most sellable and innovative convention facility in North America?
Which is also interesting, right? Because we have every other major city in this state of Texas doing the exactly
the same thing. And then we get to go beyond the state of Texas. Because Houston is not just competing with Austin and Dallas and San Antonio.
Have you seen what Boise, Idaho has done?
I know what Boise, Idaho
I mean,
has
it's
done.
an amazing, and it's attracting all kinds of people.
Oh yeah,
I wish
but
I
no,
knew.
let's not be totally facetious, Frank. The
Boise's
list of
pretty
places that's expanding nationally. Fort Worth has expanding their convention center, and the county actually, Broward has decided to go into the hotel business. They're building a 1,000-room hotel next door.
Well, what's the max? What do you know? What is the max capacity of attendees? Can we handle 10,000 attendees at the GRB?
We're about to have like the FIFA World Cup next.
What's
Well,
the max?
it's not fundamentally. You can ask that question, and you can ask how many people can you put in there.
Right.
But there aren't that many really large events. The convention world doesn't work that way. There are a handful of very small events, and those events will go to the biggest venues in the country. They'll go to Chicago, which is at the top of the list, or Las Vegas, or Orlando, then perhaps Atlanta, New Orleans. But Houston, no.
Maybe after this convention.
Understand, even with this expansion, Houston's going to have a fraction of the space that Chicago and Las Vegas have. But let me make what is perhaps the most central point here, okay? And I can start with Chicago. if that's okay.
Sure.
McCormick Place has 2.6 million square feet of exhibit hall space. The GRB, as I recall, is around 700,000 now.
So a third.
Yeah, it's a big difference. Chicago's long had a history as a major convention and trade show destination. And I checked the numbers last night just to be sure for you guys. In 2003, McCormick Place had 1.56 million convention and trade show attendees.
Wow.
Pretty good.
That's a wow. That's a big
Yeah,
number.
that is a
Let
big
me
number.
give you the second number, the 2024 number, 794,000.
So it shrunk that much because of COVID and
It's dropped that much because the Great Recession in 2008
right.
reset business travel. It reset meeting attendance. It reset the way trade shows and meetings work and how many people turn up for any of them. Then COVID
Reset it again.
reset it yet again. And so what we see from one end of the country to the other is convention center attendance has been consistently declining,
And we're building bigger.
and you're building bigger, along with Las Vegas, which just finished an expansion, Orlando, Orange County, Florida, which is starting in on an expansion.
So you think we're spinning our wheels and wasting our money?
If folks in Houston anticipate getting any more convention business, good luck.
That's
Oof.
not.
Now,
And
let me
we
tell
want-
you one final thing.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. The department store's having a sale. Why are they having a sale? Because the goods aren't moving. They're not priced right. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know how convention centers work?
Cheap wins
They give their space away
and hope for the hotel
free.
tax.
Yes.
Right.
Wow.
That's right.
Yeah.
But these days, everybody
Is giving it away.
gives it away for free. And I've read the contracts and I've seen the offers.
Oh my gosh. Okay, and we are speaking with Professor Sanders about the George R. Brown expansion. You can join the conversation 713-440-8870. We do have somebody on the line right
Quentin
now.
from Montrose.
Quentin from Montrose. Welcome to Hello Houston, Quentin. What is your comment or question for Professor Sanders?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. I could not agree more with Professor Sanders. I myself am a 27-year-old that has lived in Houston my entire life, and I can tell you that throughout the time here, I've seen this town densify for the better. I was old enough to remember the light rail being implemented, and I think that it is a disaster by this current city council and city hall to continue putting monies and funds into trying to expand this convention center and not make accessibility for mass transit a priority. I think it's going to backfire immensely, and I think worst case scenario, we'll have a downtown that ends up looking like Detroit one day if we do not put monies into walkability, pedestrianism, more buses, more light rail. That's where we need to be putting these monies, and I appreciate you guys having Professor Sanders on the show today because we need more voices like this.
Okay. Thank you,
Thanks,
Quentin.
Quentin.
Appreciate it. There you go. I mean, I think you have support from what I'm seeing in our YouTube comments.
Yes, and from our YouTube, Chef Rob 1020. Yeah, let's use public money to expand a convention center, but ignore our streets and block off our own downtown area from Polk Street.
Yeah, there's a lot of pushback on the Polk Street blockage.
And I understand that. I mean, the connectivity is a real issue.
And
It's always been an issue. And in fact, if you look at the history of the GRB, it's named for George R. Brown of Brown and Root Construction. It's a fabled piece of Texas and national politics if you read Robert Caro's work on LBJ. The story goes, George was looking out the window of his office building one day and looking east, and he saw a whole lot of underdeveloped blocks.
wow.
And he had a vision for building that up as Houston Center. that,
Yeah.
quite frankly,
And stole the Pompidou design and did it.
well,
I
not
do-
nearly the way he had thought.
And Professor Sanders, really quickly, I do just have a quick question. You know, obviously there are local community members that are concerned about this, but there's also been something that I find interesting, which is the state rep, Jolanda Jones, who represents House District 147, and it includes most of downtown in her areas. She's saying that she hasn't been contacted. Is that common for these type of projects not to reach out to the representatives, or is Houston doing things differently, or is that about right?
In this state, all too often, armed with hotel taxes, either directly or through this new financing vehicle the state legislature has provided called Project Finance Zones, which are at work in most of these cities. The tourism folks, downtown property interests, and in your case, Houston First, tend to think about these tax dollars as their dollars to do with as they see fit, focused on tourism.
Well,
And all too often, they cut out the community from the larger discussion, or they do what they just did in San Antonio and announce, if you do this billion-dollar expansion, you will get 213,400 new hotel room nights annually for the next 30 years.
sure.
Wow.
We got to cut it short. We didn't
Professor-
even talk about I-45. That's
I
going to
know
really screw
it's be
I-45
very.
up.
We'll have to have you back on because there's a lot going on. But Professor Heywood Sanders teaches public administration at the University of Texas San Antonio. Professor Sanders, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And what's it called? The Magic Hole.
The magic hole.
That's a great
Indeed.
doc.